Hello, my name is Kathy Schultz, and I am the Water Education Specialist with the California Department of Water Resources. Welcome to Water Wednesday. We started Water Wednesdays this past spring in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And each week we are joined by a different DWR employee who shares their expertise with us. Past Water Wednesday programs can be found on our DWR YouTube channel. And if you're interested in learning about delta ecology or salmon or flood risk or how we get water during our hot, dry summers, I encourage you to check them out. This month, we are learning a bit about what it takes to deliver water throughout California. The mission of the California Department of Water Resources is to sustainably manage the water resources of California in cooperation with other agencies to benefit the state's people and protect, restore, and enhance the natural and human environments. One of our key tasks is the operation of the California State Water Project. Now, the California State Water Project, or SWP as it's commonly known, is a water storage and delivery system. And this system is comprised of numerous storage facilities, pumping plants, hydroelectric power plants, pumping generating plants, and approximately 700 miles of canals, tunnels, and pipelines. And all of this is used to deliver water to over 27 million Californians who live in the Bay Area, along the Central Coast, in the San Joaquin Valley, Southern California, and all sorts of points in between. And you can see the extent of the SWP right here behind me. It starts up in Oroville and makes a trip into Napa, out down into Silicon Valley area, out to the Central Coast, before finally ending up south and east of Los Angeles. In addition to providing clean and safe water to roughly 2/3 of the population of California, the SWP also helps irrigate about 750,000 acres of farmland. So there are a lot of people depending on the SWP. And while the primary purpose of the State Water Project is to supply clean water to people's homes, it also provides, like I said, water for irrigation, flood risk reduction, power generation, recreational opportunities, and fish and wildlife habitat. And let me tell you, it is no small task to move all that water around the state. While much of it flows downhill, like water does, it just flows, along with gravity, moves downhill. There are times when it needs to be pumped up and over like mountains, for example, the Tehachapi Mountains, as you go down towards Southern California. And our guest today is one of the people responsible for helping make sure that we have those pumps working and we can keep the water moving. Or at least she's learning to be one of those people. I'm joined today by Lisa Macedo, and she is a first-year hydroelectric plant operator apprentice. She is among the most recent participants in a program with a very long history. In fact, DWR's apprenticeship program is turning 50 next week. And this is an amazing program. It combines hands-on learning, classroom study, and home study with on-the-job training. But I'm going to let Lisa tell you more about that because she's actually the one who is participating in the program right now. So before I turn things over to Lisa, just a couple of quick logistics with Zoom. If you're joining us for the first time, we did ask you to join with your cameras off and your microphones muted. This just helps minimize distractions like barking dogs in the background. But we really do want to hear from you. So if you have questions for Lisa, please go down to the bottom of your Zoom screen. There's a little box there that says chat. You can click on that and send your questions to me. And when Lisa finishes up her presentation, we will get to as many of them as we can. If you are joining us and you would like to have the closed captions going while she's speaking, there is also a captioning button down at the bottom that you can turn on. We do have a live captioner with us for those who need or like to have captions. I think that covers everything, so I'm going to turn things over to Lisa.
Hi, Kathy. So I'm
Hi
going to
there.
get the video loaded. Thanks for
All right.
having me again today. Hey there. All right. So I also want to say hello to everybody else who's joining us today. I am going to share my screen so I can share a PowerPoint with you all. So let's start from the beginning. All right, so like Kathy said, I am an HEP operator apprentice. So let's go ahead and begin. A little bit more about me and my background. I have actually, all my previous working experience was nothing in the department or anything having to do with like electricity or like pumping water. So this was all new to me. I am in my first year. I'm wrapping that up. I'll be taking my closed book and my hands-on final next week. It is a 3-year program, so I'm almost a third of the way done. Let me see what inspired me to apply. So I actually heard about this job through my sister-in-law. She's had family who still works for the department and also who has retired from the department. My husband was inquiring about the apprenticeship program because I had never heard about it before, and it seemed really interesting. I was at a point in my life where I did have a really great job, but it wasn't a place that I saw myself long term. I was still searching for that career where I could see myself for the next like 25, 30 years, like going into retirement, seeing something that would make me happy. So I was really intrigued. One thing that was really great for me was that no experience was needed. All you needed was a high school diploma, and then you go through that application process. So I applied for the program, I took the test, and then I did my interview, and I actually got the job. So I was really excited about that. And I included this picture, and what you can see, that is our training center. So that's where I'm currently at. You can actually see these discharge lines going up the hill. So we actually have down that hill, there is another pumping plant in our field division. So those are those discharge lines where it's moving the water. So it's kind of cool, like Kathy had mentioned, you know, water flows down, but we're actually moving it against gravity. We're pumping it up a hill. So let's talk a little bit about what my job entails. So as an apprentice, the main thing right now is training. So we're doing hands-on training alongside a journey level operator. So I get to see what they do every day, and I get to help with that, and then eventually feel comfortable to be able to do those tasks on my own. The main thing as an operator is to help deliver water. So we have a queue, we need to stay on queue, what we call it. It's a schedule of when we're supposed to start and stop units to move water. And so that is the most important part of our job. We're doing inspections of the plant and of units in our yards, and we're doing readings on those units and yard readings. We are writing clearances, and we are performing those clearances where we're switching, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we're doing logging. So we keep a detailed log of everything that we do. Whenever we complete a task, an inspection or reading, we start a unit, a shutdown, all of that gets logged. So before I talk about exactly what my day-to-day is, let's talk about what an apprentice is a little bit more. We have training pillars. So there are 3 components to that. The first one is on the job. So that is, again, working with a journey level operator. And then we have our home studies. So we have course books that we take home. Every 6 months, we have a different amount and different areas of study that we need to focus on. So we'll study at home, we'll read those, study, and then we come back to work, and then we will take a test. We also have classroom instruction, and so that is completed at the training center, again, where I'm at. So there's smaller classroom sizes. And then sometimes we're taking classes with electricians and mechanics. Sometimes it's just operators. And so we are in class for a whole week, and our whole work week is just dedicated to that class. And then we will have a test at the end of the week. We do have a 6-month closed book and hands-on. So our closed book is a cumulative test from all of the information that was taught in our home studies and our classrooms, and we will have a hands-on. So every 6 months we have a certain amount of skills that we should be able to master, and it's like a practical test. So we will walk along our chief and we'll complete that test as well. We are receiving college credit. When we are in the training center and taking our classes, we're actually getting college credit for those classes, which I think is really cool. And we get paid while we work. So yes, and it is an apprentice program, but we are full-time employees. So we are getting paid while we are learning. Even in the classroom, we are getting paid for that, which is really awesome. One nice incentive about completing our 6 months as well is that we do get a raise. After we complete our 6 months, our closed book and our hands-on, we get a bump in pay, which is a nice incentive. So now let me go ahead and take you on this journey to see kind of what it's like a typical day for me as a HEP operator apprentice working at the Edmonston pumping plant. So as you can see, this is a picture of Edmonston. You can see right here, this is part of our forebay. So the aqueduct goes into the forebay, which is this water here, and then this is the water that is being pumped out. You can see that we don't have any discharge lines like that first photo I showed you. That's because all of our discharge lines are in the earth, they're in the mountain, which is kind of cool. Here is a picture of all of the plants, like the generating plants and the pumping plants in the State Water Project. So I am down here. So right here, so you can see all the different plants with other operators and that are pumping and moving water. They're moving it down and it all gets down to here. And then I help move the water even further down. So you can see that it's actually going to split off too, and we call that a bifurcation, but there's two branches, there's an east and a west. Here is part of the aqueduct that's leading to my plant. So again, water delivery is one of the most important things as an operator. We are given a schedule every day, and it's called our Q schedule, and it'll let us know at what times exactly down to the minute when we need to start and stop pumping water in these units. So here is the aqueduct, and then once it goes up the hill, it goes to the afterbate, which you can see it has those east and west branches going into Southern California. So that is called the bifurcation. So let's go ahead and take a look at this picture and just go ahead and think about like what you're seeing and what does this look like to you. So remember when I showed you that picture of the forebay of the water going into the plant? So that is right here on the left side of your screen. So you can see where our pumps are. These are our pumps. You can see how far underneath the water level we actually are. So the unit is pumping water and it's going up this hill. So it's approximately a 2,000 foot lift. So that is very, very high. Even just like that distance itself is pretty long, but just, imagine, the intensity and the massive size of like these pumps to be able to lift water that high. We have a surge tank at the top of the hill. That it is open to atmosphere. And then we do have some in-ground tunnels that go through like the Tehachapi Mountains. We have a Pastoria siphon, which is actually visible from ground, and then it goes through some more tunnels, and then we end at that afterbay, and then we have our bifurcation right after, again, those east and west branches. So there will be pumping plants on each side. So every day we do plant inspections. There are morning and night operators. So we are in the plant 24 hours a day. So every shift, morning and evening shift, we're doing plant inspections. So we're checking the plant conditions. We want to make sure everything is in working order. Nothing is out of place, nothing is broken. Oil levels are great, temperatures are good, things like that. We are taking unit readings. So whenever we have running units, we want to make sure everything is operating as it should be. So we're monitoring those temperatures, making sure everything is flowing and working right. Yard inspections. We do have a switch yard where we are getting incoming power from the power company. And then we do have a transformer yard where we step that power down to what's the usable amount of voltage inside of our plant. So we're checking those power circuit breakers in the switch yard. And then we're checking the transformers in the transformer yard. And again, also logging. So every time we complete one of those tasks, we are going to log it. We have trouble calls. So we're writing those. If we find something that is not in the right condition or something is broken, we will write up a trouble call. So either our mechanics, our electricians, or our techs can go ahead and repair those items. And then again, we're going to go ahead and log that as well. And then what you can see in this picture, jumped ahead, sorry. You can see actually the top of our motors. And then this is going to be our switch gear gallery. So this is actually where we can manually start and stop our units. And so that's part of our job as well. Knowing how to manually start, stop units, making sure that they're synced to the line. And we know that start sequence. So I'm going to go to the next one. So this is the pumping gallery. So this is actually part of the upper pump. So what you can see in this picture is part of the rotor shaft, but we have a 4-stage pump. So there are 4 levels of the impellers, and it's pumping water actually up through the centrifugal force. So we are taking readings on these pumps, temperatures, flows, and oil levels, and we're also doing visual inspections, making sure like nothing is leaking, things like that. And I wanted to include this fun picture. This is a photo for scale. So this is actually the lower pump. And you can see how massive these pumps are. They actually take up 2 floors. So you can see that this is where the water would go into, and then again, it's being pumped up. Each unit pumps 330 CFS, so that is cubic feet per second. And just imagine our pumps have enough like horsepower, our motors have enough horsepower for our pumps to lift the water 2,000 feet. So again, that's pretty massive. And just to kind of have like a visual, what does 2,000 feet look like? That's 5.5 football fields. It's a lot of feet, definitely very high. Another big role that we have as operators are clearances. So we are writing the step-by-step procedure list. So if something needs to be repaired, we need to make sure that it is safe for maintenance to work on. So we are making sure that we are taking the appropriate steps in order to electrically isolate the equipment. So no electricity is coming in, things won't turn on, so it's going to be safe for maintenance, electrician, and techs to work on. There's 3-point communication. Somebody will read the step, somebody will perform the step, and then verbally say back what they're going to do, and then who is reading the steps, they will confirm. Again, because safety is very, very important to the department. It is one of our core values. We want to make sure that everybody is safe in the plan, whether we are doing the clearances or as we call switching, like actual switching of changing position of like breakers or disconnects, to making sure that everybody is safe. Again, we are electrically isolating equipment. We are adding locks and tags. So just because we say we open up a breaker, we want to make sure that it can't in no way be closed again. So we are going to put a lock and a tag on that point to make sure that once we put everything in the appropriate condition, no one can change it. So again, everything is always safe. We do our high voltage switching, and we're working with voltage in the tens of thousands. So when we're doing that, we are in our 40 cal, and that's what I included in this picture. So this is me in my 40 cal suit. We're about to open up a disconnect in the transformer yard. So we want to make sure that we're safe, we have the appropriate gear, and we follow the right procedure. And so again, just safety is the most important thing. And that's kind of basically it. So we do our making sure our water delivery, we are doing inspections and readings and logging and clearances and troubleshooting. But to talk a little bit more about what I like best about this job, it is challenging. Every day I'm learning something new, and I really like that. It is different. No day is the same. And it's not just a job, it's a career. It's definitely some place where there is room for growth. Somewhere I can see myself, completing the next 25, 30 years going into retirement. The only thing that I don't like about my current position is that closed book finals can be stressful because they're really important. You want to do your best. You have a lot of information to retain across many, 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 many chapters. So it can't, besides that, there's really nothing else. And I think that kind of like is a point to what I like best. So it is a really great position, and I'm really thankful to have this. And I wanted to thank you all for allowing me to talk a little bit more about the program and sharing this with you. So I'm going to invite Kathy back on and then see if we have some time to answer your questions.
We do. Thank
Let me
you
go
so
ahead.
much, Lisa.
Okay. You're welcome. Let me stop share. There we go.
So I never knew about the apprenticeship program until I'd been working at DWR for probably 6 months to a year. And you said you found out about it from a family member, is that correct?
I did, yeah, my sister-in-law. Because honestly, like I really didn't know like the complexity of the state water project. Like I knew we had like aqueducts, but that was kind of like the so when she talked about it, I was like, what? Like they do this? And so I was amazed too.
Yeah. All right, well, let me get to some of those questions that came in. Let's see, how many people are in your class right now?
How many people in my
Yeah.
class? When we started, there were about 29, and that was with all of the trades and all of the field divisions.
Okay.
So that was a big class.
And so there's 4 different trades, correctly? Is that correct?
Yes. So there's the operator, there's the mechanic, the electrician, and then there is the utility craft.
Got it. All right. So there were 29 and that's for everybody. And then you're in different parts of the state working on different pieces of the project.
Yes.
Okay. And one of the questions is, so, you mentioned you hadn't had any previous experience in this type of work. Is there something that high school students could do to prepare for this type of career, or is it really something that you can come into regardless of your academic background?
So you can definitely come into it regardless of your academic department. Like the department will teach you the skills and knowledge that you need to be successful, like in your position, which I think is really great, whether it's like, like the book knowledge or actually the practical knowledge. But I will say coming from, a different career field where I had no like prior knowledge of any of this, I would say a little bit of like chemistry help, but like knowing more about like machines and electricity and like generators, things like that would help. Like if you have time, like, because it takes some time, you apply to take the test and then you take the test and then you take an interview. So you have several months in that span. If you can spend some time like reading up about electricities and like motors and generators, a little bit about like chemistry, like math, like those things will definitely help.
Okay. All right. Great. Do you see? Sorry, there's a lot of questions here. I'm just skimming through them. So what's the most fascinating thing that you've learned so far?
I think just like the amount of water that we're moving, like it's insane. Like to think of like it comes from like Oroville, like all the way down through like the state. Like again, I knew we had like the aqueduct, but I didn't understand like how far it actually ran, and how far and how much water we're moving. So I think that's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, that is, it's hard to conceive of how much water is moving through there.
For sure.
Yeah. Question about the high voltage suit. It's called a 40 cal suit. Is that correct? Is that hot? So when you're out there in the summers, or
Yeah, it's very, 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 very thick. Luckily we have a fan, part of like the helmet portion, the cap that goes over, but it is really hot. We have 2 sets of gloves, we have like the pants and then like the jacket, and then we have like a hard hat and then like that cap that goes over. So, and then we have goggles too. So it is pretty, or safety glasses, I should say. So it is pretty hot.
So one of the questions that we have, and I think you're actually kind of uniquely poised to answer this, because as you and I talked about previously, even though you don't have to go to college before doing this position, you did get your degree, correct?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about doing the apprenticeship program versus going to college?
Yeah. So when I went to college, I chose what I wanted to study, and I got a degree in that. You do have to take general ed classes. So it is a lot more classes that you'll need to take. With the apprenticeship program, it's specific to the job. So we take classes like in electricities and like I talked about those motors and generators and auxiliaries and a whole bunch of other subjects that are related to our job. We will get college credit for that, although it's not enough for a degree,
Mhm,
because again, it doesn't have like those general eds and everything else and like the electives.
mhm.
Um, you may be able to transfer those classes, but it's going to be, it wouldn't be a degree and it's specific to this job or this type of field
Mhm.
career.
Okay, so it's more specific, and you do a lot of hands-on work too, right?
We do that. I would say is like 90% of
Yeah.
my time is spent in the plant, working alongside the journey level operators.
Mhm. Can you tell a little bit what does it mean to be a journey level operator?
Yeah. So a journey level operator is somebody who's either gone through the program and has graduated, or they came in at that level, but they are the full-time operators. So they have that responsibility of the plant. So everything that I am learning to do, they do day in, day out. They are mentors for us. They also teach us as part of like, their working day. But they're the ones who are assuming the responsibility of like clearances, writing the clearances, doing like the switching, staying on cue, starting the stopping unit. So they do all of that. So everything I've kind of like talked about, like what I'm learning to do, they
Mhm.
do that every day.
So when you finish the apprenticeship program, you'll have a job with DWR, correct?
Correct. Yes. So when I finish the program, I will have a position as a journey level operator. It may not be at the plant that I'm at because we do rotate when we every few 6 months we do rotate, but we will have a position. It's not something like, oh, you graduated the program. Okay, go ahead and wait for a journey level position. They hire us with the intent that we're going to need you to fill this spot.
Mhm. And then so will you immediately start working with other apprentices, or do you get a few years as a journey level worker before you turn around and mentor the next group?
We'll immediately start working. So, yeah, so at the plant I'm at right now, we actually just had two new HEP operator apprentices that started last week. And so I've been kind of walking them around the plant and showing
Okay,
them everything. So, yeah, it's already started.
awesome.
Yeah.
So basic math, good leadership skills, the ability to do your paperwork when you need to, um, and some good mechanical skills.
Yep. And good like time management for sure. Because again,
Uh-huh.
you gotta stay on cue.
Okay. Well, this is awesome, and um, there's more questions in the chat, but unfortunately we are out of time. But I really do want to say thank you, Lisa. This was really, really interesting. And the good news is, while we will not be back next week, we will be back on January 27th, and we will be hearing from another DWR apprentice, Marcus Watkins, who is a third-year hydroelectric plant mechanic apprentice. But in the meantime, if you're interested in learning more about DWR and what we do, please visit our homepage, water.ca.gov. And for questions about the apprenticeship program, we've got a really good detailed website there as well. And so you can check into that. I believe, Lisa, the exam is given once a year usually, is that correct?
Yes, it is given once a year.
Yeah, and you can go back, and if you don't pass the first time, you can go back and take it again, right?
Yes, definitely. So every year, I want to say like late spring, probably like early May is when when you will apply to take the test.
Mhm.
So you always want to keep an eye out on the Apprentice website around like March. Start looking to see when those dates will be posted to apply for the test.
Awesome. Thank you. Yep. So there you are. Keep an eye on our website. If you're interested in learning more about the water and the State Water Project, we have a water education page, water.ca.gov/education. And again, to find out what is going on with DWR, with the State Water Project, and I suspect when the apprentice applications open again, you can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. So lots of ways to keep abreast of this and find out more about it. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us. Again, we will be taking next week off. There's this little thing called an inauguration going on, which we thought might be a little more interesting for people. So we will be back on the 27th with another one of our apprentices, Marcus Watkins. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.